I'm here because I belong here, at the 25th memorial service on the Mount Scopus, where 1 month before Israel became a state, April 13th, 1948, they were all murdered. All 76 of them, doctors, nurses, professors, other workers of Hadassah and the Hebrew University, killed here, on the road to Mount Scopus. Leaders from Jerusalem and the United States are here because they remember what happened 25 years ago. 25 years ago, when I first joined Hadassah as a nurse. And as we listen to the ancient prayer for the dead, none of us dreamed that Israel's fourth war since statehood would break out just 6 months from this day. It was to be my fourth war as a nurse, and this time, as before, I was to serve it under a banner, a signature, a promise which has shielded Israel and me since the beginning. This was to be, as always, Hadassah.
The military spokesman announces that the tank battles continue in the south with heavy Egyptian losses. 2 Egyptian helicopters were down today by ground fire. Israel's Air Force continues its close support of the advancing ground forces, and several of the bridges thrown across the canal by the Egyptians have been destroyed by bombing raids from the air. On the Syrian front, an attempt by the Syrians to break out from their enclave in the southern sector was repulsed during the day. On the home scene, all but those civilian patients whose condition is serious have been sent home under supervision. Wards have been vacated in all the major hospitals for war wounded, and emergency teams are working round the clock to deal with cases flown in from the battlefields. In a later transmission, we shall be announcing telephone numbers to which relatives can apply for information regarding the war wounded.
The Yom Kippur War brought us more casualties than ever before. Brave, gentle boys, like David, a 24-year-old kibbutznik who was to have been married that week. Diagnosis, shattered leg. Procedure, amputation. Hadassah became a medical pool, assigning doctors and supplies to military hospitals at the front. As our own people left, volunteers came, at their own expense, from all over the world, to give us 2 gifts, love and work.
I'm Dr. Irwin Siegel. I'm a practicing orthopedic surgeon in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm here volunteering at Hadassah during the Yom Kippur War. The minute I arrived here, I realized how right I was in feeling that I might be needed, because I came directly to Hadassah and took off my blue serge jacket and put on a white jacket and started to work, and there was plenty of work. Days after I arrived, I was making late rounds on one of the orthopedic wards. The visitors were still there. It was quite crowded, as it can be in an Israeli hospital. People were trying to cheer the boys up. And then the power failed, so the wards were black. And the nurses lit a few candles. Apparently this happens not infrequently, so they were prepared. And of a sudden, I heard something come from one of the wards. And I listened, and it was singing. And they were singing a song which goes, Oseh Shalom Uvracha. Bring us peace with a blessing. And the people in that one ward started singing, and then it was picked up by the second ward, and pretty soon, the whole floor was full of this song. And I must tell you that halfway around the world, away from home and yet in a way really home, I sat there and without shame I cried.
One thing about Israel in a crisis, there's never a shortage of volunteers. Everyone who can just drops whatever they're doing and rushes to help. My group is manning a special bank of phones, dealing with calls from families of the wounded with up-to-date reports.
Time has no meaning during the grim days of war. Every one of us, department heads, nurses, students, orderlies, mesh into a calm, professional machine. Its parts are people, those who suffer, those who solace. And its energy comes from unity and dedication far beyond the call of duty.
בפתיחת הבטן, אחרי שהוצאנו אותו משוק, זה לקח עוד איזושהי רבע שעה, אז התברר שיש לו קרעים גם במעי הדק וגם במעי הגס. אחת בערך באמצע... לא היה כדאי. לא.
I worked with those incredible surgeons. For them, a brief rest between operations was really a consultation with a colleague on how to do the impossible to save a young and precious life.
אמרנו לעשות את שתי אנסטומוזות של המעי הדק.
We got mostly the serious cases because we had the specialized staff and equipment. And that meant we knew ahead of time how many more operations and how much therapy were going to be needed for months, sometimes for years to come. Then came what they called the ceasefire, and we began Operation SOS, safeguarding our services. Blackouts were taken down. The sandbags removed from around the Chagall Synagogue. The emergency equipment was cleaned and stored. And the wards were set up again for regular use. Everything was now ready to receive our civilian patients once more. All that was needed was an ad in the papers, and we became medical civilians again. The clinics, outpatient departments, and other services were back in business as before, as though nothing had changed. And it hadn't. We were, as always, Hadassah. Once again, the volunteers of Ya'al, our regular helping hands, were there to relieve us by providing the patients with comforts that mean so much, and stocking up again on sterile supplies against the next emergency. I can't say truthfully that babies were born as usual during the fighting. Some were born orphans, and their mothers knew it. Some were born too early or too late. But now it's SOS, salute our survivors, with a new daughter or son, who, please God, they pray, may live a life without war. All those who came with offerings of gratitude and music saw our boys now maimed for life, in their bodies where it shows, and in their minds and souls where it is hidden. So where do they get this strength and hope? As you listen, you know, Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel live. It is this ancient, invincible credo, which includes all of us, that keeps us one. No matter where we live, it is in this that courage is rooted. It's rooted, too, in a person like Nurse Leah Avni, former head of the rehabilitation department, now matron of the new Hadassah Mount Scopus complex.
It's really very excited for me because for myself it's a fulfilling of a dream. Being graduated on Mount Scopus in 1947 and coming back to the highest position that a nurse can have and to a new hospital, and I hope it will be really equipped in the latest equipment. We will be able to give the patient the best nursing that we can.
Several times a week, Leah meets with the new director, Dr. Hadassah, and others of the Mount Scopus team to discuss and plan the rehabilitation pavilion, the pediatric hospital, and surgery wing. These, and the School of Occupational Therapy, which is already open, are creating Mount Scopus Reborn. Of this new crown of healing, an intrinsic part of the medical center, Dr. Hadassah has said,
during the last 6 years, the number of the population of East Jerusalem, the new immigrants, increased into 50,000 and more, and the aim of Hadassah, Mount Scopus, is to provide a comprehensive health care to this population mainly, and of course to others in Jerusalem as well.
The helicopter sings a good song now as it passes from Scopus to Kiryat Hadassah to the medical center, where the Ullman Building for Cancer, the Sharet Institute of Oncology, the daycare nursery, new floors for beds and research laboratories are going up. Not all the hundreds of research projects are back to normal. Some are, like probing for a new technique that will measure the tiniest movement of the eye. When perfected, it will open new frontiers for the diagnosis and treatment of thousands.
Here you see a light flashing on and off. Whenever you see the light go on, look directly at the light.
The prototype has been tested, and when complete, this piece of technology, the first of its kind, will, like all research done by Hadassah and the Hebrew University, be available for all mankind.
תסביר לו שאני מוריד לו את התחבושת.
Our eye department is internationally famous, so even during the war, the serious cases came to us. Some of them, like this Arab from Jordan, did not miss a single treatment right through the fighting. Once totally blind, now he has regained vision in one eye, and soon he will see with the other as well.
Vissa, 1, Vissa, 3, Vissa, 2, Vissa, 5, Vissa, 3.
And this 10-year-old suffering from cataracts, instead of condemning him to thick spectacles for life, he has been fitted with a tiny artificial lens.
לא יכאב לך בכלל, אל תפחד, אל תפחד. תסתכל ישר חמוד, בסדר?
If you look very close, you can see it, like a square pupil. At a moment's notice, the Hadassah Rescue Service roars into action. This time it's a heart attack. Every second is vital. Streaking towards the center, the specially equipped ambulance makes direct radio connection with our coronary unit. Result, instant diagnosis and emergency treatment. Once he is safely in the intensive care unit, slowly, carefully, everything dovetails to bring the patient through the crisis. He's a new immigrant from Russia. How to speak to him? One of the nurses tries Polish. He understands, so he's able to relax.
יש שינויים הסכמים כלשהם? אני מקווה שזה לא מפריע לך, נכון? טוב. אנחנו עוד מעט נסיים את הבדיקה. טוב, תראה גם את הרישום האינטרקרדיאלי, בבקשה. רגע, אלה. הכל פועל בסדר? צד שלך? בסדר?
In this unit, the background music is on purpose. Soft, calm, reassuring. Specially trained nurses monitor each patient round the clock. In this atmosphere of subdued quiet, it is hard to believe that a few days ago we were still at war. As always, Hadassah means that Hadassah never sleeps. Every night and all night, the casualty unit is on total standby, waiting for those who come from all over for every reason, for what we do best, healing the sick. And we do something else extremely well. We count in human beings, not statistics. A child, parent, worker, soldier, they're people, not just numbers or a computer. Remember David, who was to have been married when war broke out? Remember the procedure? Amputation? Well, Hadassah gave David his wedding in our own synagogue. The Chagall windows were still boarded up, but all the rest was there. And the guests? Medical staff, workers, buddies, patients. And you who live 6,000 miles away, you too were a member of the wedding.
והתיר לנו את הנשואות לנו על ידי חופה וקידושין. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש עמו ישראל על ידי חופה וקידושין. קדש מגיע באמת היד הימנית ותאמר, הרי את מקודשת לי בטבעת זו כדת משה וישראל.
From tragedy to joy, from sadness to hope, we endure because we have this certainty, that when we turn to you for help, you always say yes, and you sign it, as always, Hadassah.